So product management, some of you already know what it is. Some of you are interested to know. So let's spend the next few minutes talking about it. And then I'll also be telling a little other stuff about how I got into this, what my background is, um, and some stuff about what product management is, what it isn't, because maybe there's some myths or like there's some misunderstandings about this role. And finally, similar to me and Annie as well, who has joined us, how you can actually become a product manager right from university, which is like something very interesting that has um, that helps a lot of students get into this career really early on. So these are some of the main things that we'll be talking about. And then Annie, who recently interned with us in the previous year, she'll be sharing her experience as well as what it would take that after an internship, how you can actually get a full-time job. So let's begin. So a quick timeline of how I got here. So I started my undergrad in 2015 at HKUST, which is Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. And I studied computer science. So maybe like some of you who are also like engineering students, I was one too. And over the period of my university, I did a lot of different types of internships because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I really didn't know what I would like to spend my time on after I graduated. So I tried a lot of different things, from software engineering to consulting to even doing my own startup. And then finally, I ended up here in Rakuten as a product manager. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about how I started and what decisions I made to the point which it led me to this job. So firstly, yeah, so decision to study computer science. Maybe like some of you, I always enjoyed math and science, so I knew that this is what I wanted to study. And also software engineering is a really hot career option since the past 10 years, or maybe even before that. And a lot of the entrepreneur CEOs of big companies have been CS majors or have had some engineering background. So I thought, okay, since I'm interested in entrepreneurship eventually, it should be something that I should do to get into that space, right? But in university, maybe some of you have also realized is that when you're studying engineering, it's mostly about the theory of it, but not the application. So it's really hard to understand how to actually learn the important stuff around it and what I can actually use in the real world, right? Um, so that's when I decided to do an internship around software engineering and web development. And I did that at a very popular Indian startup. So I was like, okay, this would basically tell me if this was something that I would like to do, right? But I realized really quickly that it was not very intuitive to me. So I was not the best coder. No, no shame in admitting that. And even though I had some tasks that I had to do, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but it was really hard for me to convert that into code. So then suddenly I started like questioning my whole existence because I'm a CS engineering student, but I am not a great coder. So what am I supposed to do now, right? This was one question. Second was like from a lot of the tasks that I was getting, um, mostly engineers think about the how, right? But I was really curious about the why because I always just wanted to see like what's the purpose of doing this specific task rather than okay, how can we quickly do it? Like that was something that really interested me. And second, and finally, because I was spending a lot of time coding in front of a computer, I really wanted to talk to more people and like be part of decision making and different things like that, which I couldn't find at that point of time. So then I was like, okay, let me try doing something which gives me all the other stuff, the why and the more human communication. And then that's when I decided to do consulting. And yeah, so consulting was all about problem solving and communication. So everything that I really wanted to do. But then I realized that as a consultant, you give your solution and then you're done. You know, you're never able to see what the final result of it was, how people interacted with it, how you could have improved it. So that really like made me feel a bit like made it feel very incomplete. And I realized I wanted to be involved in the execution as well, especially since I did all that background in why we should do this. I really wanted to build it and see how it impacted as well. And finally, consulting can be a very intense job. similar to investment banking as well, which were the two popular roles for business students in my university. And I really wanted control over my time and work-life balance. So I realized, okay, consulting may not be the best for me either. So now I've exhausted two like very popular, career options. What am I supposed to do now? So then I was like, okay, so I want to build, I want to do all the research, and I also want to be in control of my time. So let me see how being an entrepreneur works out, right? I was always very interested, and my university was very supportive of people starting their own companies. So I started an e-commerce, like kind of like middleman company where I would connect producers in China, because I was close to China and Hong Kong, to retailers in India, because that was an industry I was quite aware of, since that's where I'm from. And yeah, so in that whole thing, my favorite part was actually building out the platform with engineers. And I didn't know at that time, but this was what eventually turns out is product management. And at that time, I was just like, okay, can I just do this specific part of the whole startup, like, but for my full-time job? Is that possible? And that's when I started thinking more about it, but I couldn't find the exact role at that time. And then one thing that really influenced my decision making and like made me very clear about my career was taking a class called human computer interaction, um, which kind of, it was one of the only classes in my CS curriculum that didn't require any coding. um, but it showed me that it's equally important in the tech industry to focus on user experience, right? And that's when I realized that you could still be in technology, but you don't need to be a software engineer. You can be a product manager, you can be a UX designer, and you could still impact equally and be a core stakeholder in technology industry and product development. And in this course, like, most of the focus was on design thinking and how we can dream of solutions without thinking of the feasibility, because we have smart engineers to actually build it. So our focus is going on how we can be creative and how we can solve real world problems. And that's how I got to know that this is what a product manager does. Um, and that's when I decided, okay, if I could find an opportunity, I would really want to be one. But then at that point of time, I was in my final year of university around 3 years ago from now. And product management was not so common in Hong Kong, or even in a lot of Asian countries. It's not such a common career option in tech. um, and but more than that, even if you can find this role, you'll see that it needs at least either 2 years of work experience, or you need an MBA, neither of which I had, or maybe you guys don't have that either at this point of time. So, but however, some companies, especially big ones, they are very open, and they would like to get people right from university and train them into this role. And Rakuten was one of them. Google is another one which has an APM program which does the same thing. And this is like one of the very few programs that would hire you right out of university and train you to be a product manager. So at that time, I just applied, and based on just my past experience at that time and my passion for technology, I was able to get in. And yeah, that brings me to now, where now, like, it's been 2.5 years. I've been working as a product manager at Rakuten, specifically Rakuten Travel. But also because of my interest in product and just general passion for technology, I'm also a product lead at MyMizu, which maybe some of you know is like a really popular sustainable tech startup in Japan. And I'm also organizing Product Tank Tokyo, which is kind of like a big product community in Japan. So I get to host events and meet other really cool people who are working in the product space in Japan as well. So that's me. And now that you know how I became a product manager, let's actually talk about what it is. And most importantly, why like, if you do get a job, you'll be spending more than 40 hours a week on that job, right? And one advice that someone really gave me is that if you are spending more than, like, 40% of your time, more than 40 hours in a week doing something, it better be something you love doing. Otherwise, you're going to have a really hard time. And I can say that at this point of time, even after 3 years, like, go to my job every day and I'm just like super excited about what's going to happen, because it's a very interesting role and it's something that I'm really passionate about and it fits my skill set. So it's something I really enjoy doing. And let's talk about what it is specifically, right? So for those who already know about what a product manager is, maybe you've seen this Venn diagram before. So in a very textbook definition, a product manager is responsible for evaluating opportunities and determining what gets built and delivered to customers. Um, Kind of like, so I would say you could compare it to being like kind of like a mini CEO, because you're making a lot of decisions about what gets built or what gets sent to the users. So that would be something like a good definition to say. But however, a CEO and a product manager are very, very different roles. So I would not like to bring that comparison. However, you can think of it like being a CEO of a product or like CEO of a feature. That's what a product manager is. Um, and on a very high level, this is the basic stuff that we do. We find a problem to solve. Now this problem can come to us from our users. This problem could come to us from from customer, like from the business side, from the CEO of the company as well. And so yeah, so this problem finding is an important part, but then equally important is finding the solutions, right? So these solutions, we spend a lot of time trying to brainstorm, use design thinking, use competitor research, or even just our own intuition to find solutions to the problems. Then we get them built. So we use we have a huge team of engineers and designers who then take the solutions that we dreamt of and turn them into reality. um, and then we help them do that because it's your vision that's being translated. And finally, once we release it, we get feedback on it, and based on that we can find more problems to solve. So, but if we go into more detail about what we actually do in each stage of the product development, we do a lot of user research. So we'll be talking to users, or like finding it from sources online as to, okay, how are, like, what do people actually do when they're interacting with this kind of technology? What are their needs and wants, and what kind of solutions could solve their problems? Then we gather all the requirements, so from our users, from the engineers, from business people, as to, okay, what we need to actually build, and then we find solutions. Then most importantly, if you have a bunch of solutions that you want to build, right, you can't build all of them at the same time, because maybe you're lacking the amount of resources to do it, or maybe it takes a lot of time and you need to release things quickly because the problems need to be solved at a much quicker time. So a very important skill that a product manager does is, like, they have to prioritize the solutions, which ones need to get built first, how much capacity, and all those kind of things. Then you do the actual definition of the specification. So you'll kind of decide, okay, if we build out this platform, these are the different things that each feature of the platform should do. This is how the user will go from point A to point B, and these are all the things they can interact with, and what those interactions would mean. Then, as I mentioned, you work with the designers and the developers to actually build it, and simultaneously you test it to make sure that it's according to your vision. And then you focus on the release and the marketing aspect of it as well. So you'll make sure, okay, how do we make sure that the people who are supposed to use these apps and features, they actually do that. And also, that then once you do release your product, you reach the user research aspect again, where you're seeing how people interact with it, and then you find more problems, and then the cycle continues. So you are involved in each aspect of start to end of a product, of any product. And yeah, that's why you are called a product manager, because you manage the entire life cycle of a product. And now at this point of time, a lot of people, when I introduce this kind of role, a lot of people ask me some questions. So I wanted to bust some common product management myths. So firstly, as I've already, some people may be wondering that, okay, you still studied CS, so you became a product manager. But the truth is that you don't need to have a tech background to be a product manager. Um, all you need, like, what you do need is, you need to have a passion for technology and solving problems, right? And this could come from being like you having studied anything. So people in my team, they have studied things from business to psychology to even media or some other different types of uh, like different types of courses. However, it doesn't stop us from like figuring out who could be a good product manager or not, because the skills are translatable across all. You don't need to know how to code. So again, since you don't need a tech background, you don't need to know how to code. You have engineers who will do that much better than you. What you do need is you need to be able to speak to engineers in their language if needed. So you need to build a good technical understanding, but this is done usually on the job. Even I, at this point of time, may not have the complete technical background that I need, but I'm learning new things each day, and it's just like learning any new subject. So if you, and especially if you're passionate about how technology works, it should be really easy and interesting to pick up. You don't need to have great design skill either, so you don't need to know how to do Photoshop, Figma, or any other kind of design, because again, you have designers to do that. What you do need is you need to have great design sense. You need to understand what looks good, whether it's helpful, and whether it solves the purpose. And again, these skills are intuitive, and they can be built up through experience and experimenting with different kinds of like design methodologies. Finally, another one is product management and project management is not the same. So project management is more related to timelines, budgeting, and making sure any project is completed, whether even if it doesn't have anything to do with a product or a technology. However, as I've already shown you, product management specifically is related to product development, which is completely different. And finally, a product manager is not a manager. So, a lot of people think that because it has the word manager in it, that you'll be managing people, but that's not true, because yeah, like at any point of time, it's not um, it's not justified that a product manager is equivalent to a people's manager. However, once you do get into the career and you spend a few years, you will gain the leadership skills to manage other product managers, and that's when you become a manager of product managers. So that's kind of the general myth. And now that I've told you what you don't need, like, let me also tell you what you do need to become a good product manager. So the first one is you need user empathy. So like I mentioned, you need to have a great skill to identify what problems your users are facing, and what you could do to solve them, right? Not only just to solve their problems, but to satisfy business goals. Um, to satisfy the business goals of the company and of the people who are paying for these solutions to be built, right? So you need to have a good balance and have great empathy for that. Um, then the next one is you need to have good product vision. So you need to be able to motivate your team, your engineers, designers, to actually build what you envision, right? And that can be a really hard job, because people will question you at every level of the way as to why should we do it this way and not this way. So you need to have very good conviction and justification for the ideas you're building, and you need to be able to motivate the people helping you to build it as well. So communication becomes really important. And yeah, that's why the third most important thing is effective communication. You need to be able to express your thoughts effectively to a variety of people in a way that they understand. So for example, if you're talking to engineers, you need to maybe get a bit technical and help them understand how to do this. But if you're talking to business people, right, so they may not understand the technology, so you need to help them understand how this may affect the business, how it may lead to any profit, or it may lead to increasing the user base or things like that. If you're talking to designers, then maybe you need to be more user centric and more creative in the way you're talking to them. So you need to change your language depending on who you're talking to. And as a product manager, this should be a second nature to you as well. So if you enjoy talking to people, and if you enjoy, like, especially talking to a different talking to people from different backgrounds, but getting all of them on the same page, maybe you do this already in some of your group projects. This is a really great skill that you're already practicing right now. So then let's come to a more wide variety of the PM skills that you need. So maybe some roles are very expertise roles, like if you are a data analyst, or if you are a marketing expert or something. You need to have expertise in one specific skill or one specific domain. But as a product manager, you need to have a basic, I won't say expertise, but like you need to be decent at a lot of different things at the same time. And these are some of them, so I won't go into detail, but what I will say is that you need to have a seamless blend of hard and soft skills, um, to make sure that you are able to pick up things really quickly and then get the job done. And none of these, as you can see, involve you having to be a coder or be a designer or any other things. They're mostly related to how deeply you understand technology and users, how you can be a great like communicator, and also how you can make sure that you are doing critical thinking to find problems and solutions um, for the people you're building products for. So yeah, again, this is like another way to think of it. You have your three core skills, and then you have a lot of it that comes into the like background. And yeah, so with that, let me do a quick exercise to just see how, for you guys to see how user experience plays an important role. So here you can see that there's two ways we have designed, like how to say, like you're selling this t-shirt and you need to get the user to pick a color, right? So let me launch a quick poll, and I would like to ask you guys, which one do you think is better user experience, the one on the left or the one on the right? So let me see what is happening. So immediately I see everyone's going to the one on the right, and that's a very interesting and expected scenario. However, what if I told you we had 50 colors, right? Do you think we would have space, or like we would have the, like this kind of design on the right would would be feasible with 50 colors? I would say no. Maybe a designer can really make it in a great way, but it seems less likely, right? Or what if I told you that we only have, like, most of our clothes are only in the orange color, so we would like the user to be, kind of led into choosing the orange color more, because we don't have much inventory of, say, yellow or blue. So in that case, like, the one on both cases that I mentioned, the one on the left seems more user friendly, right? So that's something very interesting that I wanted to bring across, is that um, as a product manager, when you're given a problem or solutions, your role is to ask more questions to make sure you're actually addressing the right problem. And that's why uh, each user experience that you see in the apps that have been built, there has been an insane amount of discussion as to why it's built that way. So yeah, and product managers are usually the ones who lead that discussion and see how it should be built. So that should be something you should think about every time you're on any app that you use, be it Spotify or Instagram, as to like, just think about it. Why did they do it this way and not another way? What kind of things are they trying to solve with this feature, or this button being placed here instead of there, or even so many different things. So yeah, so I hope that this gave you an insight as to why it's important to ask questions and critical thinking and those kind of things. So the answer to this question finally is, it depends on a lot of different factors and your goals. So now let me come to a point where, one second. Yeah, now let me come to an important part, where it's like, why you should choose a career in PM, if what I've told you for the past I guess half an hour has been interesting to you. It's a very in demand role right now. Maybe those who have already heard about it, that product management is getting really hot. Secondly, the skill set, as I mentioned, is easily transferable to any domain and industry. So for example, today you are working in, say, e-commerce company, right? As a product manager, tomorrow you could go into fintech, and you could bring all the skills that you have into that without having to learn anything new, because your skill set basically means you can learn anything really quickly and you can get things done at a quicker pace. So be it fintech, be it you want to go work at Netflix later in a streaming service, or you want to even go into like B2B services, whereas you're building software for other companies rather than users. There's You could go into any product company and your skill set is equally valid and important. So it's very easy to switch roles and go into whatever you're interested in. And finally, I think one thing that really inspires me and really makes me feel like, okay, I'm in the right role right now, is because it's a great training ground for future CEOs and entrepreneurs. And why do I say that? It's because, let me show you this slide, right? So hopefully you guys know these three people. If you don't, let me just quickly say that. The first one is Steve Jobs. Obviously, he was the founder and CEO of Apple. Second is Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google currently. And third is Susan Wojcicki, who is the CEO of YouTube, right? So that's one thing they have in common, is that they're all CEOs of some of the biggest tech companies in the world right now. But they also have one more thing that's in common, is that they all were product managers before this. So Steve Jobs, although never was a product manager by role, but he was always a product first CEO. And he always made sure that he had an intense amount of role to play in the product development of his company's products. Sundar Pichai, before he was a CEO of Google, he was the product manager responsible for Chrome and Android. So that Google Chrome, the browser, or Android, the whole operating software, he was the one who came up with like this idea as a solution to some problems that people were facing. And because of his success in these kind of things, and the skill set that he gained through that, he was entrusted with the responsibility of being CEO to Google as well as Alphabet, its bigger entity. And the story continues. So Susan was the product manager for Google AdSense, which is the reason Google earns most of its money today. Google, like, it monetizes ads on its search results. And then because of those skills and because of the success, she became CEO of YouTube, which is also owned by Google. But the story doesn't end there. Okay. Like, I was so shocked when I found out these things as well. The current CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, he was the PM of Microsoft's cloud platform. Adobe CEO was also PM of many of important products. The head of Instagram was the product manager at Facebook newsfeed before this. And ex-CEO of Yahoo was also product manager of Google search itself. And also she built the APM program, which Rakuten also got inspired from as well. So as you can see, product managers, their career trajectory is very interesting, because they are very primarily placed in a position to go on and lead like really big companies or lead really big products, especially in tech. And it doesn't just stop there. The CEOs of Slack and Notion both were also product managers before they started their own companies. So, like, as you can see, I'm like, being a product manager actually has a really interesting return later down in your career. So I think that's also definitely one of the really great incentives to become one. And finally, like, one thing I can tell you is that as a product manager, or like a lot of students, especially me when I was in university as well, I didn't want just a job that paid me money. I wanted to do something that has an impact in the society and the world as well. And I do feel as a product manager, you have direct influence into, changing user behavior for the better and actually solving real world problems every day. As you know, so many of the CEOs I showed you before are doing through either as a product manager or as a CEO as well. And now, to continue as to why being a product manager is great, is because Japan tech is catching up quick. As I already mentioned, it's a really hot field for and many companies in Japan are hiring. Even if you just could do a quick search on LinkedIn, there's more than 3,000 product manager jobs in the market right now for companies like Google, Amazon, Coinbase, Rakuten, and so many more. So everyone is hiring. And especially as a product manager for a lot of the big companies, if you are bilingual, that's really beneficial for sure. And maybe some of you already are. But let me also tell you, it's not mandatory. And that's why it's so great, because as an only English speaker in Japan, the job market might be very like very narrow and niche, and might be hard to find the jobs you really want to do because you can't speak the language. And very you may have heard that obviously engineers, they have a huge salary and they have a lot of perks that come along, but very you might be surprised to find out that product managers are treated equally as engineers in a tech company. So your salary package and all the perks that come, they are like almost the same, and you have the same kind of ladder to go up. So you don't have to code, but you can still get the same benefits. Like I feel like that's such a win for this career. And finally, the work culture, especially in tech companies, is very different from the typical Japanese culture you may have heard of. So it's like, you know, that your work-life balance will be maintained, and that was one of the really important things that I wanted in my job. So I can still like say that, okay, this is one of the jobs that actually gives you that kind of balance. And being a product manager at Rakuten is also a really interesting opportunity. Firstly, because maybe Rakuten is one of the only or very few companies that'll help you get into product management right out of uni, like it did to me. Because even though PM is hot, it's still a very hard role to get into, because you need, as I mentioned, you need either work experience already in the industry, or you need an MBA. So like if you are already convinced that this is a role you want to do, or if you feel like it's really interesting to try out right out of uni, um, this is a really great opportunity for you to actually be trained and have a playground for you to grow in and also learn this skill and this career. Secondly, as a product manager at Rakuten, you get a lot of like, since you guys are in Waseda, obviously you probably live in Tokyo already. But maybe if you're from other universities, or you feel like maybe getting a job somewhere else would move you out of Tokyo, like yeah, Rakuten brings you to Tokyo, the center of technology in Japan. We have a lot of really interesting perks like other tech companies as well. Like we have free breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is really cool because you don't have to spend money on it, and it's also a good variety of food. um, there's like free education in the sense that you can get a lot of online courses for free. They make sure that you are trained in a lot of different things even outside of your expertise, and you get a lot of perks. Like for example, you can travel abroad for conferences or for business meetings, and even for user research. You get a lot of discounts on Rakuten services, that's a given. And also on experiences. So for example, like Rakuten, like I went to watch like free football matches between Barcelona and other teams, because Barcelona is sponsored by Rakuten, as well as NBA games and baseball games, etc. So it's really fun. Like us, and then also alongside the perks, you also get a lot of training, mentorship, and you can make a lot of friends, both Japanese as well as non-Japanese people, because the Rakuten campus kind of seems like you're in an international university. It's kind of very similar, specifically because Rakuten's language of communication is English. So you can assume that every one of the thousands of people who work in Rakuten, you can go and talk to anyone in English directly, which is really helpful because I had no Japanese skill whatsoever, but it never made me feel like I was alienated in a country that is majority Japanese speaking. And finally, as I mentioned, you can work in a huge variety of high impact and popularly used products directly used by millions. So as you may already know, Rakuten has an insane amount of services in all types of domains. So you have so much choice to choose from, and then you can also switch if you get bored or if you feel like you are not growing enough. You have a lot of opportunities to change your domain. So there's a lot of different variety of services that you can impact directly. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about Rakuten Travel directly as well, because that's where I work. Rakuten Travel is the largest travel service in Japan. And now the goal is to go global. So make competitor as good as Booking, Expedia, or Airbnb. You may have heard of these other travel services as well. um, and you are part of a team that will define, like I am part of a team that defines the future of travel tech, especially because COVID really shook the industry up, but now we are rebuilding. and it's really interesting space to be a part of. Our team is diverse with more than 50% people, international, and everyone speaks English. English is our mode of communication. Specifically, the team culture, and our team itself is very supportive, and we really make sure that everyone thrives, no matter what they're doing. And maybe Annie later can tell you a little bit more about her experience. And yeah, so okay, if you want to apply specifically to Rakuten Travel, let me tell you more information about it later. um, as a PM at Rakuten, you would do like some of the following things. Whereas firstly, as I mentioned, you'd work on rebuilding the future of the international travel industry, which is really in a, it's like going through a rebirth right now. So you are at the forefront of that. um, our product team is about 15 people, but the entire team, including engineers, designers, is more than 100 people. So that means you have a chance to, and as a product manager, you'll be speaking to almost every one of them on a regular basis. So you get to meet a lot of people with different backgrounds, and you get to interact and build great products with them. One of the products we've already released is Rakuten Travel, the current website, as well as a like luxury domestic website as well. So you are building products that will be directly used by millions of people, and that's a really great high impact role that you could have. And finally, yeah, so you own end-to-end UX, user experiences, and functionality of important aspects of the entire product. So for example, one of the things I do is, I handle translation on our app. So anything related to translation, different languages, different currencies, like I have the end-to-end experience of how that will go. Another example could be that I also handle the notifications experience. So like what kind of notifications are sent to people, um, the frequency, how people can view them in the app. The entire decision making is like in my hands. So I really have a lot of creative and like creativity and flexibility going into defining those kind of user experiences and features. So yeah, finally, to quickly wrap up, you should become a product manager if A, you want to stay involved in core tech without having to code or design, if that's something that interests you. Secondly, you are someone who wants to find creative solutions to real world problems that are really challenging. Thirdly, if you care about user experiences and you want to create useful things to be used by millions of people, that's why, if these things speak out to you, then a product manager is a really great role for you. And coming to the end of my presentation, if you do decide to become a product manager, you must be thinking, okay, but how can I prove that I could be a good product manager, right? So here are some ways to do that. Firstly, absorb knowledge from all directions. Read, speak to people, watch videos, play around with apps. Just try to build your passion for technology and knowledge about products as much as you can. Do side projects. That's really great. That's really important, and it'll show that, okay, even though you don't have job experience, but you have experience building products and putting them into users hands. Iterate on them. You know do user research and try to understand how people, what are the problems people are facing, and dream up solutions for them, like I did in my HCI class. Or start your own company as well. You're in the last year of uni, you have nothing to lose. See how it goes and see how it can benefit your skill set. And finally, apply the PM mindset in your everyday life. So this whole finding a problem, finding solutions, getting feedback and iterating on that cycle, you could do that in anything from your current projects in university, to any presentations that you have to give. Just keep doing that because you'll build that mindset. And some tips to stand out in the applications process is, make sure you do cold emailing and messaging. It's a very important skill, not just for now but for life, because a lot of opportunities can be created specifically for you if you say the right words to the right people, right? Secondly, show your passion for technology and user experiences in your interviews. This will be done through your knowledge absorption as well as side projects. Show good communication skills, written and verbal. As I mentioned, communication is really important skill for product managers. And if you are applying to Rakuten, you should understand Rakuten's vision, culture, and products, because that way we can see if you're a good fit for Rakuten itself. And also apply on time. I think that's really important and goes without saying. Um, and that's all from me. I really hope that it was helpful and it gave you an insight into this career, which you may already know or you didn't know at all. um, I'm always open for questions from students, as well as if you are looking for any advice or just want to catch up and know more. The best way to reach out to me is by messaging me on LinkedIn, or you could email me as well, but maybe I respond less frequently. So one thing I wanted to mention is that Rakuten currently has a internship program, and the applications are due tomorrow night, 11:59 p.m. I think you guys already saw the link from the sign up form. So one unique thing about this specific program is that usually if you want to join Rakuten as an intern or even as a full time, it takes almost 2 to 3 months for the interview process and all the other things. But this program will finish the whole thing in one day. So it's a 1 day hiring event. At the end of the day, you'll know if you got a job or not. And I think that's really great to reduce any anxiety you must be having about whether you can get an internship by the time summer rolls along or whether you can get a job. So I would highly recommend applying for this program because it's super quick and it's the easiest way for you to get an internship or a job right now. So this one is specifically for those who are graduating in 2023. However, if you are graduating in 2022 and looking directly for a full-time job, or if you're graduating the years after and just looking for an internship to explore, for both those cases, please reach out to me with like some kind of motivation, and let's see what we can do, because we also have standalone internships that we can give to passionate candidates. So your cold message to me would be really useful in making me think whether this opportunity is something that we can extend to you or not. So definitely take advantage of that. I'm all open for all messages. And specifically, if you want to apply for this 2023 program and you want to apply in the travel company that I mentioned, then also please reach out to me after submitting your application so that I can ask the HR to put you into the travel department's interview process rather than others, because otherwise you could be in any of the other services as well, which is also cool. But if specifically you are interested in travel, then let me know. So yeah, so that's all from me. I know I took up a lot of your time, but I hope that it was useful for you. And yeah, and now I would like to hand it over to Annie so that so that she can share information about her internship experience, how she got it, and now she's going to be working as a full time. So how that's going to look like. So Annie, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tanmay. Thank you everyone for coming today, and thank you, Waseda GDSC for organizing this event. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can all see it. Yeah, so today I will be spending a bit of my time to share with you my experience and journey of working at Rakuten, and specifically at Rakuten Travel as an intern. So this is the agenda for today, a bit of a self-introduction. And then we also touch on the part where I came across product management, getting the job. And at the end, I'll share specifically what I did and what I have been doing at Rakuten as an intern. So maybe this is the first time for many of you to meet me. So hi, good evening. My name is Annie and I'm from Vietnam. I'm in my last semester, fourth year at Ismikan APU, and I study business, specifically marketing. So I would say that I view myself as someone with a mind for business, and that is my background. But I have a heart and passion for tech and design. I would always be reading up on the latest tech, latest app out there, or I would always be spending my time on my computer making something. This later beyond became very worrying for me as I think about my future. So who am I actually? What do I want to do with my life? Or which part of myself should I follow? The business part or the tech, the design, the creative part? So because I was very confused with what I should be doing, I gave everything a try. So earlier on in my university life, I invested a lot of my time to test out on the creative side. I did some internships at a marketing agency and advertising agency. Similar to Tanmay's experiences with his previous work internships and startups, I too felt that some parts of me felt quite incomplete when working in this industry. For example, when I was a media intern and I was editing videos and designing all day, and I missed out on the human interaction. I didn't know how the general public would react to my product only after it has been published. And with the advertising agency, even though I got to meet a lot of big clients and small clients, as well as giving like 102% of my crazy ideas pitching to them, however, I felt it was very short lived because with this industry, if you do not win a client, then you would have to drop all of your ideas. Or even if you win a client, after that project finish, you have to move on with another client. So I wanted to have something that I can have more control over of what goes into it, what goes out of it, and even to see how it would grow and evolve over time. And it was not until in my second year when I went to Canada for an exchange where I was introduced to the tech industry and the different types of jobs and positions offered in it. Specifically, when I took a course called Design Method for Business Innovation, I realized that my business background, as well as my creativity or my passion for tech, can be combined. And there are a few positions that I will be able to execute all of the things I want to do. So after that, I tried to venture myself into tech by joining in hackathons and find later after I came back to Japan, trying to find work in this industry and this field as well. So towards the end of my university life, which was last year, I actually got an internship at Maimizu, which Tammy also briefly mentioned. And this was where we met. And I was working with him on some products together. I got to learn about how to conduct user research, how to make wireframes, prototypes, and we launched a new feature on the app together. Even though I was not from this industry at the beginning, but I was able to show that I was willing to learn. And it has been quite a learning curve. And I definitely learned a lot from the job and from the people I work with from Tanmay. And this was when I knew more about the role of product management, and I decided to give it a try. I resonated a lot with the role at the time because when we were working together on the at the social enterprise, we had to talk to a lot of teams, products team, we had to talk to the user and also to the founders as well. And I realized that you have to also evangelize your ideas. You have to pitch it and you have to push for your idea, which was very similar to what I have been doing and studying at university. I also realized that now that I believe that I want to go into this direction, I want to see if product management or whatever the position is, I want to be in the product development cycle. Maybe product management would be it. I also realized that since I'm not from a tech background, I should also try to build up my skills, but more importantly, to build up my confidence. And last but not least, I was also very inspired specifically by working with my product manager, Tanmay, side by side. So I really wanted to learn more about this role. And as a result, I decided to pursue product management and talk to Tanmay to see where I can take my skills to the next level at Rakuten. So how I decided to pursue it, I gave a lot of experience of what I have been doing at my past internships. Also on the side, I try to keep myself up to date with my skills by working on side projects, such as doing with what's most familiar with me, like redesigning the information portal from our university, trying to look at things from the tech and product side. And last but not least, I try to network with people from the industry, with people working in product management, or even people working at Rakuten, so that I can know more about what the company has to offer and if there's any opportunities for me. And through those meaningful connection, I knew that at Rakuten there is a very of good and very dedicating team towards your mentorship, and they're very welcome anyone who has a passion to learn to join the team. Specifically, how I went through the process to get the job. After understanding what I wanted to do, I made sure that I came forward and told them that this is what I can do. I may not have the specific skills to work in the position, but I have been working at these specific experiences, and also I am a person who's willing to learn. If you give me something new, then I will learn and I will take it a step further. And last but not least, I showed them that I had strong communication, both during the interview and later on during at work, where every day I have to learn something new and I have to communicate what I think and what I have been doing as well. Okay, so where I am right now, after planning an internship at Rakuten as a product manager, I spent a lot of time shadowing the work of the team and keep on making connection on the side. And towards the end of my internship, I later on expressed that I want to work more towards the designing side, the user research side. And I talked to some of the managers there, and they were willing to let me try a different part in the team. As a result, I was later transferred to work as a UX designer intern towards the end. So it was a 3 months internship, and towards the end, I was able to deliver a final presentation to the team. And as you may know by now, I received an offer from Rakuten, and I will be joining the team from April as a new grad. Okay. To specifically explain what I have been doing at my internship, since I was working 2 roles, I will quickly share with you what I have been doing. But first, as a new intern at Rakuten, and specifically at Rakuten Travel, I spend most of my time almost every day to learn more about what's happening in the travel industry, because I was very new to this field. By reading tech article, product article, and travel articles every morning, just to keep yourself updated, especially during COVID, where every day is definitely a new day. As I mentioned before, Rakuten has a very supportive mentorship system, and they have a lot of resources for employees and interns as well. So I got to shadow all of the team meetings, and they treated me just like a normal employee. I also got to utilize my time there to attend the Rakuten Tech Conference, Optimism Conference, and other training resources. Last but not least, I spend maybe 2 to 3 hours every week to have fikas. So having one-on-one conversation, coffee chat with different people on their team to know that what they have been working on, what their roles are, and even like how they came to Rakuten or how did they found their job. As a product manager intern, and even as a UX designer intern, you will be assigned to a mentor. And my product manager mentor was coincidentally Tanmay. So with during this internship, we would have daily mentorship where we would check in on each other, and I was able to shadow most of his meetings. And once I built up my skills, once I knew more what goes into the product role, management role, I was assigned some task with the team, and even with some of the tasks that Tanmay was working directly on. My final deliverable was a mini PRD, and this is a very important concept if you work in this field. So I wrote a smaller version of a product requirement document. Later, when I joined the design team, um, I also got a mentorship, and I also got to learn about all of the stages in the development, product development, and the design process, going from identifying what the problem is to talking to the real users, conducting research, to come up with strategies, how to bring it in a more visual way, and in the end, how to pitch it to the team to evangelize the solution. So when I joined the team, I definitely did not have much confidence in my technical background. However, at that time, I would say I pride myself on my soft skills and also the experiences from different fields I had. And I kept on bringing that enthusiasm and those soft skills that I had, to be proactive at work, to keep on being curious and keep on asking questions, to convey my love and interest and passion to learn more about tech and product. However, after the short 3 months, I realized that my soft skills was improved, and at the same time I got to learn a lot of tech skills, specifically towards both of my roles as a product manager and as a UX designer, skills that Tammy briefly mentioned: product vision and user empathy and effective communication. And now, even now that I got the offer, I still feel like every day is a new day, and I keep on learning as well. So to sum it up, it's okay if you don't meet all of the requirements to become a product manager, but it's okay because if you are willing to learn, that's all it matters. If you keep on learning and if you have the right attitude to learn, then all of the skills can be acquired later on. So this is a picture of our team at my final presentation. I did not ask for permission to show people's face, so I just put some stickers on it. So right now we are working remotely and hybrid, but hopefully when soon in this year, we will be able to meet together at the office and have real coffee chats together, as well as enjoying other perks at Rakuten. So to sum up, if you know your story, if you know your background, if you know what you're strong at, what you are interested in, if you are willing to improve those skills, or if you are willing to learn more skills, and finally, if you're able to communicate to people that this is who you are, this is where you want to be, then, and this is how you are willing to do it, then I believe that Rakuten can be a great starting point to your career, especially if you feel like product management or even just working in tech or product is something that you look forward to. And I wish you all the best. Yeah, that's it from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Annie. Yeah, I hope that through Annie's talk, you guys would also get a sense of what it would be like to be an intern. Her experience comes from Rakuten Travel itself, but I'm sure that other departments in Rakuten have a similar culture. And most importantly, the reason Rakuten loves to hire students is because they have a really mentorship kind of culture inside, and a lot of us spend a lot of time making sure that interns as well as new grads are, they are prepared and they learn a lot, and we are very like, it's, as I mentioned, it's like a playground, so we love making mistakes and learning from them so that we can all become like more like better at our job. So yeah, so that brings us to the end of our podcast. I think Advait wanted to do something before we go into the Q&A. So maybe you can do that now. Do you want? Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll share my screen. Firstly, thank you so much, Tanmay and Annie, for sharing your experiences. I'm sure this was a truly an eye-opening uh, event for many of our participants. Uh, Please do fill out the survey. It will using the QR code, but by scanning the QR code or by using the link in the chat box. Um, this survey will help us know how the event went, and if you are interested, please do fill out your email IDs so that the Rakuten group can send information regarding the internship. So we'll take a few minutes to complete the survey before we go back to the Q&A session.
Right, thank you so much. So yeah, while you guys fill it out, let me open up the floor to questions. So I know that some people already asked questions in the chat. So if you want, you guys can feel free to ask it directly. Otherwise, I'll read them out after I'm done with the in-person ones. So so yeah, anyone please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay, I see Jason raised his hand, so maybe you can go ahead. Hey, Jason.
Hey, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so thanks for all this thing. I'm a guy who answered in your questionnaire that I did not know what a product manager was. Found out very interesting. And so my question is Rakuten gets freshly graduated students out of college into their junior product manager role.
Yeah.
But can you kind of tell me what exactly kind of you do as a junior product manager? Because as you mentioned, fresh grads don't have that much experience and skills. Yeah, so I doubt that Rakuten can give you a lot of things to do, but what do you actually do there as a junior product manager?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And so as a junior product manager, let me give you like a hierarchy of how product works, right? So if we take, for example, Instagram as a product, right? Are you familiar with Instagram?
Yeah, I use Instagram every day. Yeah.
Okay, so Instagram as a whole service, right? Or like as an app is a product itself. But if you dig deeper, it has so many different components, right? So it has stories, it has the feed, it has reels, right? So each of these can be categorized as its own product at this point of time because it's its own user experience, it has its own functionality. Obviously, interacts with other parts of Instagram, but it's its own product. Now, if you go even deeper, right? As part of the feed, you'll have likes, comments, share. Each of these is a feature in its own, right? Being able to like, how liking something affects other parts of the app, like your explore feed or blah blah blah, right? So the deeper you go, the smaller the scope becomes of the product you are handling. So a junior product manager would still be managing a product. It's just the scope will be reduced to something that you can actually understand at the level you are, and you can actually build it, right? So for example, yeah, so like you may not be able to handle the strategy. Even I don't think I can do that. There's some really smart people doing that, of the whole service, of the whole app. But when I started, I handled like very small elements just to get the feel of, okay, how would it happen. um, and interestingly, the stuff you do at Rakuten, or like the stuff I did, even though it has a small scope, it still has high impact because it's being used by millions of people. Or it, if done correctly, it can earn money for the service, or if done incorrectly, it could lose customers, right? So that's why we do take people from university directly, because it's not like we are like, how to say, like we aren't suspicious that you will be able to do it or not. We want to put you in that environment to see whether like you can learn from it and you can do it that way. And in my case, I think that's the best way to learn, because especially if you have the freedom to make some mistakes to learn from them, without having insane consequences, especially from the company side, it's the greatest teacher, because experience is the best thing. So any junior product manager role you take in any company, they'll have stuff for you to do which is high impact. Just it's just the scope is smaller, and obviously you have mentors and you have people who are checking the things you are doing, so that we make sure that, okay, if something is not in the right place, we work with you to correct it, and collectively solve that problem. So you're not alone here, you're not handling it alone. The whole team is there supporting you. And maybe Annie, like, you can speak later with Annie and she can like tell you more about it as well. But I hope that answers your question.
It does, and I do think that it's one of the best ways to learn. And yeah, thank you for your answer.
No worries. Okay. So yeah, I think Risan, maybe, is that the best way to pronounce your name? Or
Hello, I hope you can hear me. Yeah. My name is Risani, and I'm from
Okay.
APU, same
Yeah.
as Annie. I had a few questions. I already wrote them in the chat, but I just wanted to ask you directly as well.
Yeah.
So firstly, I would like to know that when you say product, what do you actually mean? Like, does it also encompass services? Is it just apps? Like, how simple or how intricate can be this product you speak of? And can it be, so for example, if I talk about something as simple as a mug or a can, does that classify as a product, and where is the tech involved?
Yeah, so to answer your question from a philosophical sense, anything that solves a problem is a product, right? It doesn't have to be technical. It doesn't have to be with technology. It can be anything. And maybe if you study marketing, you know that like products can be physical, um, or like anything can happen. So with that in mind, there are even product managers for maybe mugs, right? Like there'll be product designers. We'll be making sure it's easily usable. If, for example, if it's a mug for tea or if it's a mug for water, it may have different materials, different properties. So that's like completely non-tech related. Even in tech, you have hardware versus software versus hybrid. So you could be making an iPhone which has a mix of software as well as hardware. You could be making an app. You could not be even you could be making API. API is kind of like a piece of code that talks to do two different software, right? So that doesn't even have any users using it. So a product is basically anything. But in the scope of what I'm talking about, product manager as a role is usually for a tech facing, like a tech involved product or a solution, and even services. So for example, Amazon itself, right? Amazon, you can think of it as an e-commerce product. But also if you go deeper into it, the Amazon app is a product as well. Or the Amazon Alexa is a product as well, something like that. So yeah, a product can be anything. But a product manager, the one that I'm talking about, is kind of like working for a tech company and building a tech, like something related to technology.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just going to add on to that just a bit. So you spoke about conviction and like convincing others about your vision, what you visualize a product to be like, right? But does that mean that we are not really flexible to other people's input or feedback? Like, or what is the brainstorming process like? Like, do we get many people's feedback? Is it just one person thinking about the product and its utility? Yeah.
So yeah, that's also a really good question you asked, because no, it's not like we think something and we just like force everyone to do it, right? Obviously the people we are working with are equally smart and they may have good questions to ask. So the brainstorming involves almost everyone, So first, our job is to find the problem and come up with the potential solutions, right? And then at even during that time, people can come in and say, oh, hey, this could be a solution. Then you consider it, right? And also, when you have decided a solution, maybe some people come in and say, hey, it could be done better this way or that way. So you're always taking feedback from everyone at each stage. However, the decision making in the end lies still with you. So even if you have all the points, maybe you have some other information from the business side, or maybe you have some competitor research or intuition that says, no, we should do it this way because it will solve these specific problems that may arise in the future as well. everybody has an input, but your job is to collect all the inputs and then decide which is the best one to go forward. And then once that's decided, then people, if they still ask you, then you have to give them the justification. It's not like you just don't give them any reason and say we have to do it this way. You are completely at mercy of the justification you have, whether it's data, whether it's actual words from your user, or whether it's like believing that doing it this way may solve multiple problems, or create lesser problems in the future. um, so yeah, it's a very experimental way, but it's still, you make sure that you have all the right information to give to anyone who may have questions about why we're doing it this way.
So is it okay to assume that the product development, it's mainly like market research based, right? Not like innovation. So not thinking out of the box. Like I'm a bit confused as to like the percentage of how we use research or like data from our market research, and to what extent we actually add innovative ideas to it. Like, is it a mix or is it just one over the other?
It's a very flexible mix, so some things can be like, and it also depends on the problem. Like if it's a very simple problem to solve, you don't want to spend a lot of time brainstorming when the solution is already there, right? If it's like a standardized solution that everyone is doing. But if it's a very complex problem which doesn't have a straightforward solution, then obviously you have to spend time brainstorming, and coming up with creative ways. So it's finally, it's a mix of everything. So you have to make sure you use each source that's available to you to get all the information, and then you can do whatever you want with it, or like collectively what everyone decides to go forward with. So yeah, obviously I wouldn't be in this role if it didn't involve design thinking, because that's a very important part of product development, as well as something that I'm really passionate about as well. So yeah, you can be rest assured that you'll be involved in a lot of innovation as well as research at the same time.
Okay, last question to you. What is
Yeah.
evangelizing? I tried Googling it, but I couldn't find it. It was on your slides.
Yeah. So evangelizing is kind of like, so the real meaning is related to religion, but the way we use it in tech means that you are spreading the word about your product, or like you're spreading the benefits of what you are building, right? So when you do create a product, it's equally important to make sure that the people who will use it know about it, and they know about how they can effectively use it well. So you need to be a very good advocate of whatever you're building. So you need to have good demoing capabilities, you need to have good speaking skills, public speaking skills, and those kind of things as well. So that's kind of what we mean by evangelizing.
All right, got it. Thank you so much for your input.
Yeah, no worries. Anyone else would like to ask a question directly? I'll wait for like 1 minute. Oh, okay, we have Perry here.
Hi, hello. So
Hi.
this is Perry. Also, I'm a senior also from HAUST. So
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah. So it's great to meet you, and like the talk is really inspiring. So you mentioned that you found a startup before you landed PM role. So like I would like to know, how did this entrepreneurial experience help you in your day-to-day job as a PM in Rakuten?
Okay. So I think there were two main reasons how doing my own startup helped me. Firstly, as I mentioned in my story, it actually made me realize which aspect I really like to do, where I wanted to spend most of my time in, and that was product development. So it kind of helped me narrow down into the aspect of a whole business, which one I like the most, right? Secondly, obviously, being like, if you are a product-led company, and if you're building a product, then you will be working with engineers, and that's what I did, right? So I had some of my friends who were helping me out building my platform, and I was spending a lot of time with them, understanding what are the different trade-offs you can have, this feature versus this feature, how to build it, how to make sure the user experience is good, etc. And I really enjoyed that, and obviously that's the same thing I'm doing right now as well, because we are developing products and features and talking to different stakeholders daily. So that, plus also it gives you really great strategy sense. Like you can think about innovation, you can think about future of product, and I think as you can see, some of the best like product managers end up becoming great entrepreneurs or CEOs. So that's also something you can think about, is that it goes both ways. Some of the best entrepreneurs also end up becoming really good product managers. So one interesting thing I can tell you is that a lot of companies get acquired, right? A lot of startups get acquired. So when companies get acquired, mostly the CEO of the company that got acquired, they get a role as a senior product manager or a VP of product in that company, because that's the most best role that a CEO can do in that bigger company now. So that's why it's good either way, because if you're interested in entrepreneurship, it'll help you out regardless.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have more questions. So let me take Diane or Dion first.
Thank you very much. My name is Diane. Thank you, Tanmay and Annie, for your presentation. My name is Diane. I am from APU. So I have a question about the Agile event, the one-day event, because I think it's in such a short time. Like it's hard for students to, impress the recruiters. And I think this question is kind of hard for both you and Annie because you are not recruiters. But I want to ask, like, do you have any advice, or if you were that event, how would you impress the recruiter, or how would you showcase your strength to meet the product manager role? Yeah, thank you.
All right, Annie, do you want to go first, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
This will be a very hypothetical answer because as I shared from my presentation, I got the offer from my internship, so I did not went through the Agile event. However, I initially talked to people who got the internship from the event. Yeah, and it turns out I missed the deadline. So the first thing is to make sure you apply by the deadline. For me, if I were to, like you said, it would be very hard to make an impression just in a day. But I think it's about knowing first who to impress. So in the application form, maybe they will say which department, and you get to choose which departments you want to go to, like travel, or there's also leisure or beauty. So I would try to do a quick research on and speculate who will be at the event. And for me, if I were to apply, would already know the person in the team by then. So I would definitely have that kind of connections with me beforehand. And I think Tammy also said that if you connect with us, then we would be happy to bring your application forward if that is possible, or we would at least know who you are beforehand. The second thing I would do to impress in the application is to know what about me that really stands out. For example, I am not from an engineering background or a computer science background. I am from a business background. However, I feel like that doesn't really discourage me from giving it a try, but it's actually a motivation for me to apply, because with product management, it's not only about the tech side, it's also about the user side, and it's also about the business side. So I feel like with my business background, I already have the foundation in it. And with my experience working at previous internships, I already have exposure to the experience user side. So now I only need the tech side part. So I feel like that's where Rakuten can come and help me. And with the qualities and experience I have with the other two parts of the circle, Rakuten is the missing puzzle to my equation. I feel that would be how I would brand myself. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
What about you, Tanmay? Because I think you went through this event, right?
Yeah, so at that time it wasn't like so yeah, I got hired in one day. However, I did not know that it was a one-day event. I just thought it was my first round. So it was very funny that after my interview they gave me the offer and I was kind of confused what happened here. So yeah, with that in mind, it's even more interesting that how did I still do it? So I think one of the things that I mentioned was that my previous experience was really representative of what a product manager should do. Like things like I was interested in entrepreneurship. I was interested in user experience and those kind of things. So obviously that helps a lot. But secondly, you need to understand two things. One is that people who will be interviewing you will not be recruiters, but they will rather be like people from our team, or me or someone else. So we know what we need to ask to judge whether you would be a good potential candidate or not. We may not know if you currently have those skills or not, but we know how to get this information from you based on your answers. That's the first thing. And I had a second thing, but I forgot. But anyway, so other than that, here are some of the things that I also mentioned in my presentation. One was that, like Annie also mentioned, if you know where you might be speaking, or even if you don't know who you might be interviewing with, still cold email people to ask them questions. Everybody's super open, and they can give you some interesting tips to put your best points forward. And secondly, as I also show your passion for technology and UX. That's something you can do anyhow. You can insert your knowledge into your interview answers, and you can show your passion through the way you're talking, right? Communication skills can obviously be judged through your interviews, so that's something you should work on as well, if that's something you feel that you may be lacking. um, and finally, I think you need to, since you're applying to Rakuten, so you need to have a good knowledge. Like, the best way to impress the interviewers are to know that you know who you're applying to, right? So you can understand Rakuten's business model, Rakuten's culture, and how it's making an impact in Japan, and why you want to be part of this company specifically, based on all those reasons. So I think with all that information handy, 2 interviews is more than enough to prove that you can be a great candidate. So don't think that it's too short of a time, because it's good enough. Like, the way the event is designed, it's to make sure that we can get the most passionate people in the quickest way possible.
Oh, thank you very much. By the way, we're talking about the interview. So I read in the application that the interviews will be in Japanese. So how was it for you when when you were interviewed?
Yeah, so I think you can, if your application has been submitted in English, then your interviews will be in English, right? When I applied, I was in Hong Kong. I had no Japanese language at all. Like, and even right now, I'm like just N5 or something. Like, I don't use Japanese in my daily work. So it will be for a role in English. So you don't have to worry about that. Just make sure either you fill your application out in English, like your resume and stuff, or you mention in some note that you would like your interview to be in English. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. That was very helpful. Thank you, and Annie, thank you.
Cool. Sean, you're up next.
Oh wait, sorry. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my name is Sean. I'm part of GDSC Waseda, and I just had a question, probably more specifically towards the internship that Annie went through, but I guess this also can extend out to Tanmay as well. But I was wondering more about how, like, the duration of your internship program, and how, like, was that determined based solely off of like performance, or like a certain amount of knowledge gained from like the mentorship, and like what sort of factors kind of determine like when you can, I guess, well, ultimately I kind of want to know like when you're like ultimately decided to like apply for like the full-time role, and like when that transition, or how that transition sort of happens.
So is your question how the duration of the internship, if that's something
Yeah,
that I can decide?
yeah, or more specifically, I guess like on like what factors are that determined? Like, is there like, do you need like certain skill sets, like to prove you've like obtained certain skill sets to like uh like obtain your like full-time position that you have done?
I see.
Maybe, oh, sorry, Annie, go
Oh,
ahead.
if you can
I'm sorry.
rephrase it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understood Sean's question, so maybe let me try to answer it, and then if it's still not answered, then maybe we can discuss more about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so usually your internship duration is fixed based on your availability. So we are quite flexible. Like we've had even 2-week internships, and we've had 3 months like Annie as well, right? And it's also part-time and full-time based on whether you have a, like you are in summer vacation, or you have studies going on and you can like do part-time. And so once that duration is decided, so as part of each internship program, obviously if you show your interest in so we have like we have a form towards the end of the internship, or some sort of way to ask you whether you are interested to apply for a full-time job. So that's part of the internship. So that your interest plus our, like the way we notice how you've been through the internship, and our evaluation of you, those two are mixed, and then you're given the opportunity to interview for full-time job. And it's relatively like, it's more of like if our evaluation of you is good, then it's just like a confirmation. It's like it's like a obligation sort of thing, because you can think that you have a high chance of getting it compared to someone who is applying directly from outside. So that's why internship is a really great way at Rakuten to guarantee a full-time job if you do well during the internship. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that completely answers my question. So thank you very much.
Great, great,
I,
great.
I can also add the different types of internships. So Rakuten has fixed internship, for example, winter internship, which is over. And in summer, there's a Natsuno Jin, like yesterday it was mentioned, but in summer, there's also another fixed internship. So that's when the most pool of applicants come in. And there are different themes for those internships as well. And your deliverable would be working with different people to come up with a proposal for that theme. However, there are also like off-season internships, which I would categorize myself in, because as I mentioned, I actually missed the deadline to apply for the Agile internship. So I just applied and did it from August to October. So I was doing it half of my summer vacation, and then I was working while I was studying a bit as well. And during summer, I was working full time. But when classes started, I worked part-time. And that is something that I really appreciated, because the team allowed me to have that flexibility while doing like maximizing my time during the internships. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that answered my question completely. So
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, so okay, so since we are quite late into our event, so let's just take the last 2 questions, and then if you guys have any other questions, then please feel free to message me or Annie, and we are more than happy to reply. Okay, Jake, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, my question is concerning the product manager role. Are there any like explicit benefits to becoming a PM fresh out of school, like just fresh off the bat? Because I realize that a lot of PMs actually become PMs after working in the industry as software engineers or whatever, and I see the benefits in that, and being in the industry and having a more like a larger technical background, and also seeing like the needs and different like marketing opportunities in industry before going into such a role. So
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I would define it as kind of like the landscape of how technology jobs used to be versus how they are now. So earlier, most product managers used to be used to transition in from engineer backgrounds, specifically because they were required to still maybe look at code, or work more deeply with engineers, because it was more engineering focused. But today you'll see that most of the big companies, they are more user centric rather than engineer driven. So that means that you don't need to have that technical background anymore. As even if you transition from any other role, as I mentioned, you need to have like some other stuff like passion and communication, etc. So I think the way to answer your question is that if you're interested in becoming a product manager eventually, it makes more sense to go into it right off the bat, specifically because firstly, as I mentioned, it's much harder to transition into the role, than to be like, so it's like a chicken and egg problem in the industry right now, where to be a product manager you need experience, but to get experience you need product management, right? um, so it still is hard, obviously. So if you are a product manager right off the bat, like at this point of time in my career, I'm at 2.5 years. Any like I have the freedom to apply to any company as a product manager, and I'm like I already have the prerequisite experience to do so, right? I don't have to worry about getting that interview call in the first place at all, or even doing well in the interviews, because I speak like a product manager already, right? Whereas I don't have to relearn these skills from another career. So if that's something you are interested in doing already, then it makes a lot of sense to do it directly. However, if like I know a lot of people may be curious about choosing a job between software engineer or some other role versus a product manager. So in that case, yeah, like do the pros and cons, because you already always have the chance to go into PM later, right? So if you want to explore another option and see whether that's right for you or not, then it makes sense to do that first, because otherwise you'll always regret not knowing, because it's harder to go back into software engineering from PM, because then you have to relearn all of coding, which is I can assume it's a pain. So yeah, I mean, do you have like, let me know if you have any other follow-ups on that, but that's my advice to you. If you know, if you want to go into this career path, or if you want to build your own company from and gain a lot more business and strategic knowledge doing that, then you should go this way.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you would say that it would be easier to transition into a PM role from a software engineering role rather than vice versa.
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
All right. Great. Thank you very much.
No worries. Okay. And then last question is from Julian.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much. So you've talked a lot, and for the previous question as well, about how you could move to other companies or other departments. And you both have talked a lot about Rakuten Travel. So would you say there's a lot of horizontal movement within the company for product managers? And if so, what would you say is really stopping you from doing that and moving to other parts to try and explore other businesses?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. So yeah, so there is, so as any other big company, Rakuten also has processes by which you can move into another team, and it's also encouraged. Like every 6 months, we have a questionnaire which asks us if we are looking to go to another like department, and then our manager kind of facilitates that if needed. For me, I really love my team. Like I really feel like I've grown a lot here, and now that I've got some experience, I'm being able to lead and do more complex projects. And because I have worked in this kind of product or like in this department for long, so I really want to make sure that I only think about moving once I've done my big release. So I'm still like, so because of the way COVID is running, we have put some projects on hold. We are working on some other stuff, so there's a lot of like fun stuff happening at the same time. So I want to make sure that all the projects that I worked in, or like I led the development of, that they are released and I can see the impact that they're making before I just move to another department or company. So yeah, like once you become a product manager, you kind of like get attached to your products, and you want some kind of closure before you move on to another one. So that's for me. But we have had people who have moved into our team, who've moved out of our team at different stages of their career as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, then. I think we've already taken a lot of your time, but finally, I hope that you guys had a good experience learning about this, and would consider product management at Rakuten, or specifically at Rakuten Travel, our team. And hope to see you guys soon at interviews, or regardless, whatever you guys do, make sure that you're doing something that you love, because otherwise, as I mentioned, it's going to be not a great time. But yeah, with that, we can end this event. As I already put in the chat, but let me just reshare it so that it comes up. So I've put my LinkedIn as well as links to the application, which the deadline is tomorrow night. So make sure you do that. But if you do miss out, as Annie mentioned, you can email the right people, the right words, and things can happen. So so hope you know that as well. And yeah, and Rakuten keeps doing these kind of hiring events once in a while. So I also put a link where you can know more about the future events coming up. But yeah, with that, let me close this event and hope to connect with you guys later on LinkedIn as well if you have questions. And have a great evening and weekend. Yeah, see you guys. Bye bye.